We all live in a world where there's plenty of conflict between men and women, husbands and wives, conflict between employers, employees, between the haves and the have-nots, those who have houses and property and land and those who do not, and even conflict between nations, those who want to extend their borders and their resources and those who are trying to stop them. And the stakes are very high with huge quantities of weapons, especially nuclear weapons. But through this story of Abigail, we can have hope how a woman's intercession can actually avert major conflict, even war. So I do take comfort. I used to pray for my sons' wives, even when they were toddlers. And a good wife always brings good advice and blessing. And I think that the same for Putin and Xi Jinping and these other world leaders. They will have women around them. We need to pray for them that they can have the wisdom of Abigail. So let's set the scene. Abigail was surrounded by very proud men. There is Saul is in the background trying to kill David, and David is fleeing from Saul. Saul was once an anointed king, the first king of Israel, who could prophesy and defeat Israel's enemies. A wonderful man, wonderful soldier, and yet he became independent and started to make decisions independent of the Lord. And so David was chosen to be the second king and anointed by Saul. But this transition of power took time, and David was fleeing from Saul, who didn't want this upstart to take over from him. So in that context, David has been with his 600 of his men in the wilderness, hard pressed. You know, they're outlaws, they're looking for resources. They protected this rich man's sheep, Nabal, around Carmel, and no harm has come to the sheep or the shepherds. And at shearing time, David hopes and politely requests a reward from Nabal. But Nabal responds like, who is this man? Who is this son of Jesse? You know, I don't recognize him. You know, this upstart, this rebel from Saul. And the message gets back to David, and David's had enough. He's spared Saul's life. He's been chased. He's trying to provide for these wild men. And he says, strap on your swords, guys. We're going to sort this guy out. And Abigail hears of this from one of the servants, and she's got to act really quickly. And she does act really quickly. She loads up bread and wine and mutton and raisins and fig cakes and puts them on donkeys and quickly goes to meet David. And here's this little woman on a donkey, meets 400 angry men armed for battle and intending to kill every male in the household of Nabal. And she acts quickly and she acts humbly. You've got the pride of Nabal, this rich man who answers to nobody. You've got the pride of David, who has been deeply offended. And she humbles herself. She comes in the opposite spirit. She falls herself, prostrates herself in front of David. And over again, she calls him my Lord, my Master. A wonderful passage in 1 Samuel chapter 25. Please read the story. A wonderful account from Abigail, how she appeases David, how she asks for forgiveness, how she says, she intercedes for her husband and says, look, he's just a fool. This is his nature. This is just the way he behaves. Don't take it personally. She intercedes for David, saying, David, remember who you are. You are the Lord's anointed. One day you'll be king. It is the Lord who fights your battles. He will sling your enemies away from you like a stone in a sling. You're reminding him of the great victory of David and Goliath. And she affirms him, you know, all that pride. She's encouraging and building up this man who's been deeply offended. And then she says, also intercedes for herself. She's not just a doormat. She wants good things for herself. She says, remember me when you come into your kingdom, and I am your servant. And David is moved and he thanks her. This has averted unnecessary bloodshed which would have been on his conscience. And he's so grateful to Abigail and her intercession. And we know the story, she becomes his wife in the end. But anyway, just this story is encouraging that women they are in positions of influence with proud, angry men, and through wisdom can solve big issues and bring peace where there was going to be war. So let's pray with confidence that God is at work bringing those words of wisdom through strategic people in our world.